I effing love maps. I think that's the name of my new series, guys. I think that's the name of it. I've always had a passion for maps, and I've been meaning to do this new series for a while now. Guys, I'll be on Instagram, and I'll kind of go through my feed. You know how they personalize your feed on Instagram? And I've been seeing all these maps, and this has probably been happening for 2 or 3 months, and I always click on them. I think maps do a great job of uniquely explaining interesting things in a very simple form. And I think many people, you think of a maps, oh, it's boring, whatever. You guys are going to see a lot of these maps are really interesting and they really make you think. So I'm just going to start this new series, there's going to be some funny maps, there's going to be some really interesting maps to talk about, to discuss, things like that. And we're just going to kind of go through, I got like 12 or 13 maps from Instagram, shout out to Instagram, from my feed that I found that I view as very interesting. So let's kick this off. Kind of an interesting one to start and pretty crazy. The westernmost point of China is closer to Germany than it is to the easternmost point of China. That just goes to show the sheer size of China. The most westernmost point in China is closer to Germany than it is to the most eastern point. So the western point closer to Germany than it is to the farthest east point in China shows you the sheer land size of China. I saw that and I was like, there's no way that's true. I didn't fact check it. But you know what? If Instagram says it, if Maps Daily says it, I'm going to believe it. Moving on, where tea generates the most money. Estimated revenue generated from tea in 2020. In 2020, you take a look, you go to Brazil, you're going to be wanting to break out the tea. You go to places like India, China, we all know all the Buddhists, yep, you break out the tea. It's a lifestyle there. It's a lifestyle. I know a lot of people that drink tea in America here. It's definitely gotten big. Tea is definitely low in calories. You ever get hyped up, you need something warm, very good drink. I'll drink tea every now and then, but it's more for older people, people in their 30s, 40s, 50s when they're working, understandable. It really does lighten the mood though. You go on a date, whatever. Order some tea. It's a power play, guys. It's a power play. You take a look, you go to Brazil, you're going to be drinking tea. Moving on. Most commonly spoken language other than English. I found this interesting. In every state there, you got the German. In the North Dakota, very interesting stuff there. How about French in Louisiana? We remember the Louisiana Purchase, maybe some holdover from that. And then the New England side of things up in near Canada with the French-speaking people there in those states. Not surprising. They're up in Maine, Vermont, places like that. That doesn't surprise me. And then you've got Hawaii and Alaska, the two native languages. Not surprising at all that those lead the way there. This is more of a funny one. Name for hamburger by U.S. county. So this is what people call hamburgers in each U.S. county. Looks like every county in the United States except for one refers to a hamburger as a hamburger. And in one county in the middle of New York, it looks like they refer to it as steamed ham. Now, I don't know if this is accurate. I personally would love it to be accurate. I don't know if this is accurate. If there is a county, maybe there's only 40 or 50 people in the county, but if they seriously all refer to a hamburger as steamed ham, like I'll take a one steamed ham that you order it at a restaurant and then you get a nice juicy burger. Like, I think that'd be sweet. So I don't know. I don't know if that's legitimate. Maybe the county is so small. I'd love to go to a restaurant there and actually order steamed ham and then get surprised. You think you're getting steamed ham, whatever. It's a little bland, whatever. I'll eat ham, but it's just not that great. And then you get a burger. Oh, baby. I love that. They refer to it as steamed ham. Amazing. This one, communism in theory. We will have a great classless society. It will be great. Ah, yes, everything is equal. Communism in practice. I got to give it to those Chinese. They can build a hell of a statue. That's a hell of a statue, man. You look at that thing. Look at how big that thing is. Compare that to the crane. Look at the scale of that thing. You got to give it to the Chinese, the way they build some of these things. But yes, communism. I'm sure the one problem is many young people love communism, and there are old people that'll come up to me and they'll say, "Listen, why are all young people like you communists?" I'm like, I'm not communist. A lot of it's due to an indoctrination in college. Many of these kids, they have no political opinions. They go to college and they just get all this crap. Communism, yes, we love it. Capitalism is greedy. It's evil. Socialism, we talk about Bernie Sanders, the rise of Bernie Sanders with socialism. They're among young people. Young people loved Bernie Sanders. Absolutely crazy, crazy stuff. And I'm sitting there saying, listen, Many of these kids get it indoctrinated. They don't even have any political opinions going into college. Next thing you know, they're leaving college, going to the Women's March every year, trying to be transgender. That's what happens with these kids. It's unfortunate. It's disappointing. But this is just a little funny thing. I don't know how I, related that to this, but it's just a funny picture of, China building a statue there. Yeah. Fat burning ads be like before and after. Man, the Mongol Empire. That was a hell of an empire. The Mongols, hell of an empire, man. You got to respect it. I always respect it. And I always say if there's one country in this world that deserves all the land that they have, it is Mongolia. Because, man, did they have an empire, man. They deserve that land. You take a look at just how big Mongolia is now compared to, like, Russia. It's pretty crazy, man, compared to what kind of empire they had, man. That's crazy. I actually like their style of empire way more than the British Empire, where they kind of controlled different territories. I like when all the land connects. You know what I'm saying? Like the Mongol Empire, it all connected together. The British Empire was like, oh yeah, we control Africa, which is like, 4 million miles away. Give me a break. That's ridiculous. Come on. You could have a puppet state, I guess. You're not controlling everything. It needs to connect. I understand you're on an island if you're Britain, but like you would have to control like Ireland and then all of Western Europe. You know what I'm saying? Like it have to be connected. I understand you're on an island, but I'm just saying I like when it's all connected. The Mongol Empire was all connected. Biggest land empire, amazing stuff there. Biggest countries in the world in 2100. This is a really interesting graph, and really the one thing to take away is India passing China. First of all, I don't think this graph is actually correct because it has China decreasing in population by a lot. Unless there's another, virus or something. I don't understand how that could be correct. But they are right in the fact that India is really rapidly growing in population. But I actually think the biggest thing to take away from this graph, look at the African countries. There are 5 African countries in 2100. 4 of them weren't even on the list in 2020. And Nigeria, which catapults above the United States. These African countries their population density is going to be crazy, although there's a ton of land in Africa. But that is crazy. The rapid population growth in these African countries. You take a look at Ethiopia down there, Egypt down there. The Congo makes an appearance in 2100. Pretty high up there, almost passing Pakistan. There's Pakistan right there. And then the United States drops to number 4. I don't think many people are sad about that. People really don't want there to be a lot of people in the United States. You want to keep that population density most Americans would want to keep that population density as low as possible. Now this kind of surprised me, and maybe it's just because I'm an ignorant American, but United States passport ownership, I would guess personally every state would be like above like 60 or 70%. But you take a look, I believe that's Mississippi. Less than 20% of the people own a passport in Mississippi. And then you take a look at all those southern states, like 20 to 29%, 30 to 39%. And then you've got states like Alaska, where they're constantly traveling, over 60%. You've got states like California, their people are constantly traveling there. I would think the entire United States would be more than 60% people own a passport. Like, I don't know if this is correct, honestly. I'm not sure I'm just pulling random things off of Instagram, whatever, guy, and then reacting to them. It is what it is, guys. It's whatever. This one is scary. The world's biggest economies over time, highest GDP. In 2024, it projects China to surpass the United States. Now, I think we all knew this was coming. But the fact that it's this fast and this rapid, obviously a lot of this has to do with many American manufacturers saying, why would I pay an American employee even minimum wage, even $8.50, $9.50, whatever the lowest minimum wage is, when I could pay some kid from China 1 Yemen or whatever, their currency is, 1, yuan, for a day's work. Obviously you're going to do that. That's the one issue America's been dealing with. But I think the whole thing with China is, to me, I think they're really lying about their military numbers. I think they are rapidly growing their military, and if they were being honest about their actual rapid advance in military, I think NATO would want to check them. And that's really one of the main issues I have with the American media and their refusal to blame China's part in the coronavirus. Obviously, we have all heard of the lab leak theory, things like that, but more so, China had the initial numbers on the coronavirus, and they completely lied about all of them. And the media was so focused on blaming Trump, and I'm not this Trump supporter, guys, I'm an independent, but the media was so focused on blaming Donald Trump. Why blame China? That would shift some of the focus. That would shift some of the blame off of Donald Trump. So they blamed everything on Trump. China gets out scot-free when they created the virus. Very likely they created the virus in a lab, and then they lie about all their initial numbers to make it seem like the virus doesn't spread that bad. They supposedly said they had the virus under control. If you look at their numbers, within the first month of it spreading in China in March. That's ridiculous. It's basically impossible now that we know how this virus acts, now that we know how quickly the virus spreads. Take New York City, for example. It has much less of a population density than something like Shanghai. We know how overpopulated many of those slums are in China. You're going to tell me they were able to get that under control even if everyone's wearing a mask that quickly? I find that extremely unlikely, and quite frankly, it's basically impossible. But the media was so focused on blaming Donald Trump, and now we're seeing China rapid advancement in economy. They're going to have the number one GDP by 2024, according to these graphs. And they're just, they're expanding their military so far. I think they're lying about their military numbers. I actually think they're expanding them more than they say they are. Because if you're a Chinese, person, it would make sense to lie about those numbers. You wouldn't want other countries to realize or to know that you are expanding your military that quickly, because that would ring off some alarm bells in NATO, you would hope, although NATO is kind of ridiculous. It's really, United States should not be in NATO, but it is what it is, guys. Moving on, I thought this was interesting. Google Trends for the year 2020, just an interesting graph. Obviously, you can see, unfortunately, with Kobe, we know what happened with him up there in late January, having that massive spike, very sad there. And then the whole coronavirus thing in March, you can see kind of how COVID goes up, and then it tails off as the season goes on. How about Zoom? You take a look at the 1 second from the bottom, Zoom. Guys, there are people, I don't know who created Zoom, but whoever created Zoom, this is going to sound evil, but they probably love the coronavirus. Would anyone even know what Zoom is? Or would the vast majority of the US population even know what Zoom is if COVID hadn't happened? Nobody knew what it was. Nobody was Google searching Zoom before COVID happened. Nobody was using Zoom before COVID happened. It happens, and Zoom becomes the number one household names. The coronavirus, made people rich off of Zoom. It's crazy. So that is crazy. Just a few more, just maybe a little more lighthearted ones. Mercury, if like Earth, 71% of its surface was covered with water. I don't know why I included this one. This was a waste of everyone's time to see this. It's just a bunch of red dots. I love Mercury, man. It's such a small planet. How about number of airports per country in Europe? You've got Russia with a lot of airports. You've got, obviously, the UK with a ton of airports. Places like Ireland. What's that one? You see the one little island up there, north of Britain. I wonder what that is. I'm not sure what that is. France has a ton of airports, not surprising. Paris, things like that. Just a little funny graph. And then this one, this is the pretty crazy. This is the other crazy one when it comes to populations. Look how much. This is the current populations. I don't know when this was taken, but I believe it was sometime in 2020. China and India. Look at the comparison, China, India, and then the drop off to the United States. Oh my gosh. The population density in those countries and some of those cities has got to be absurd. And India is going to pass China to have the most populated country in the world rather quickly, rather soon. The rapid growth of India and China and the African countries we saw in the other graph is crazy. But just look at the drop off. You've got number one, number two, and then the drop off to the United States, population millions. My goodness, that is a huge drop off. Then you've got Indonesia, Pakistan, Brazil, Nigeria, and then Bangladesh rounding out the list. Thanks to Maps Daily. I appreciate these maps, about 12 or 13. Again, guys, I'm going to be doing these kind of a never-ending series. This is just part one. I have a passion for maps. I think they tell a story. They're interesting. Some of the maps are going to be interesting to where we can talk about it. We can discuss what's happening with the maps. And then other maps are just going to be funny, whatever. There were a few of those sprinkled in. I'm going to try and kind of have a mixture of informative maps and then funny maps and kind of just statistics, things like that. But guys, that is going to do it. Make sure you are following me on Twitter. Link to that's always in the description. I am, of course, the Depressed Ginger. Thank you for watching.